People call me Charlie, and I describe myself, I'm an artist in search of beauty, truth, and goodness. Those three things, there seems to be a relationship, and that's what I'm looking for in my work.
At the end of a long gravel road in Floyd County is a unique and inspiring place, the Out There Sculpture Trail. Built by Charlie Brouwer, the property is not only where the artist works, but also a place where visitors can view many of his sculptures set amongst the beautiful scenery of rural Southwest Virginia. Much like the roads that must be traveled to reach the sculpture trail, Charlie's journey to settling in Floyd County was a long one. After being born and raised in Michigan and a stint as a teacher in Australia, he eventually moved to Radford to teach art at Radford University. Later, he moved to Floyd County and retired from teaching to create and exhibit his art full-time.
We had discovered Floyd quite early in our time in Virginia, and we liked the combination of traditional culture here and counterculture, and that seemed to have influenced a kind of interest in the arts in general. Being able to afford the land and getting a place with some more room and live in the country as opposed to living in the city was a draw for us, but also just the general culture of Floyd was a reason for being here as well. I've really found myself as an artist here in the 30 years that I've lived here, and I've developed as an artist in response to both the natural environment that I live in and the cultural environment that's here. I am extremely interested in being an artist with a relationship with my community. So I deliberately continue to exhibit my work locally. I've got a program where I have a sculpture that's moving around from one church to another right in the New River Valley. I have another sculpture that right now in front of an antique store in downtown Floyd. Periodically, when I have a sculpture that I'm not renting at the time, I'll contact a business or an organization in my community and ask if they would like to have it for a while. Another project I've done in recent years was there's a schoolhouse, an old building in a pasture. It's quite a large old wooden building, and it's not being used anymore, and I found out about its history. I learned who owned it and talked to the owner about an idea I had of doing a temporary installation with these orchard ladders that I had acquired. An orchard owner in Southwest Virginia gave me 100 of his old ladders that he couldn't use anymore, so I could use them to create temporary installations. And one of them I did in that schoolhouse. We installed 52 white-stained orchard ladders coming out of the windows of this abandoned schoolhouse building in this pasture. And the 52 ladders represented the 52 years that it was a Floyd County school. People went to school there and they went out into the world, like those ladders, coming out of the windows. And that gave me an opportunity to meet the farmer who owned that property and learn about his family. The benefits of working with a community and with others, you take an idea and somebody buys into it, but then they're participants in it. And pretty soon the thing expands into things that you never imagined, could happen. It's just indescribable, the feeling of being accepted by and embraced by and enjoy participating with a community.
Charlie's taken participating with his community to the next level by placing over 30 of his sculptures around his property and allowing visitors to enjoy them, as long as they make an appointment first.
My work is kind of all over the place, stylistically and literally. It's in galleries and museums and art centers and communities. The city of Bristol, Kingsport, Tennessee, Abington, Virginia. I've rented sculptures to all of those cities. And, it's here at the Sculpture Trail. This is described as the Out There Studio and Sculpture Trail. I periodically host events out here where in the art world it's called an open studio. So you announce to the public, you advertise, you say, I'm going to have an open studio this weekend or during these days. You're invited to come and visit and see what I've been doing. People will come during those scheduled hours and see what I'm doing. And then I often have people say, can I bring friends back or family when they're visiting? And so I started saying that I'm always open by appointment. You just have to contact me, let me know when you're interested in coming, and I'll get back to you, and we set up an appointment for them to come. They come and walk the trail. I have a guide that's written up that they can use and a map that they can find their way around. Hundreds of people have been here.
Brouwer attributes his art's popularity to methods and materials used in his work, the result being works of art that are both approachable and understandable to the common person.
You can certainly say that I'm primarily an artist who makes sculptures out of wood. I construct with the wood. So I cut wood, whether it's a tree branch or a board, into pieces of certain shapes and then attach them together again. In the history of art, that can be described as being a constructivist. I think I started doing that because that was what was natural to me. I had worked in construction. As a child, I lived in a house where Father had tools and we made things, we built things. And so that's how I started making the work. And this idea of there being meaning in that is something that I discovered later. In this way of making things, I'm using the same tools from the hardware store, the same material from the lumber yard and sawmills that people in my region are familiar with. And I've always liked the idea that I'm making work in ways that people understand, so that there's not like a mystery in the way that it's made and makes a bigger separation between viewer and artist. By working with standard methods and materials, it makes the work just a little bit more friendly and approachable and makes the artist a little bit off a pedestal of being special.
Brouwer further removes himself from the artist's pedestal by allowing the viewer to interpret their own meaning in his work.
The idea on the sculpture trail is, here's a sculpture, and this is a title, and here's a couple of my thoughts about it, but at the head of the guide it says, but please don't take my word for it. Look at the work and interpret it your own way. I'm an artist in search of beauty, truth, and goodness in any way I can find it. And I hope that the work that I produce finds some resonance. Some people will discover their own meaning in that work. And to discover my meaning, shouldn't mean that much to them.